Here's a question that might keep you up tonight. If you inherited $1 million tomorrow, would it make you richer? Or would it actually make you poorer? Sounds ridiculous, right? More money can't make you poorer. Except it can. And Stanley and Danko have the data to prove it. Chapter 8, the final chapter of The Millionaire Next Door, draws a sharp line between two groups, self-made millionaires and those who inherited their wealth, and the differences in how they work, what jobs they choose, and how they think about money. This chapter forces you to ask, what kind of wealth do you actually want to build? Let's get into it. Stanley and Danko found the consistent patterns in self-made millionaires and those who inherited their wealth, heirs. Self-made millionaires tend to gravitate toward careers that are entrepreneurial, autonomous, and often unglamorous. They're business owners, contractors, professionals who built practices from scratch. They chose careers based on economic opportunity, not prestige. On the other hand, those who inherited their wealth tend to cluster in different kinds of careers. They're more likely to be found in prestigious-sounding but lower autonomy roles like corporate middle management, a profession's chosen for status rather than earning potential, or sometimes no career at all. They were more likely to choose careers to impress others rather than to build wealth. But the most striking finding wasn't about job titles. It was about financial behavior on the job. Self-made millionaires reinvest in their businesses. Heirs tend to spend their inherited money. Self-made millionaires live below their means, even as income grows. Heirs tend to set their lifestyle to their inheritance. Self-made millionaires see work as wealth creation. Heirs often see work as something to get money for spending. Stanley and Danko aren't saying inheritance is bad. They're saying that without the habits and discipline that built the wealth in the first place, inherited money tends to dissipate, often within a single generation. This is the shirt sleeves to shirt sleeves in 3 generations phenomenon. And it's not just an old saying. The data backs it up. Let's look at our first story. On one side, you have the first-generation millionaire. Let's call him Mr. W. He built a successful contracting business over 30 years. He drove a used truck, lived in a modest home, and poured his profits back into the business. His net worth at retirement? Over $4 million. He never earned more than $150,000 in any single year. On the other side, you have the children and grandchildren of wealthy families who receive substantial gifts and inheritances. Stanley found that many of these heirs had household incomes that times impressive on paper, but their net worth was shockingly low relative to their income. Why? Because they'd adjusted their lifestyle to their inherited wealth and not to their earnings. Big homes in expensive neighborhoods, private school tuition, luxury cars, country club memberships. The cruel irony is that the heir earning $200,000 with a $500,000 net worth was objectively less wealthy than Mr. W, who earned $150,000 with a $4 million net worth. Stanley called this pattern all hat, no cattle, and it was far more common among heirs than among self-made millionaires. This pattern hasn't changed, but actually gotten worse in the social media era. Consider the research from the Williams Group, a wealth consultancy that studies generational wealth transfer. Their widely cited finding is that 70% of wealthy families lose their wealth by the second generation and 90% by the third. The primary reasons aren't bad investments or economic downturns. They're a breakdown of communication, a lack of financial education, and heirs who never develop the discipline that can create wealth. We've seen this play out publicly. Look at how many celebrity and business dynasty fortunes have evaporated. The Vanderbilt fortune, once the largest in America, was essentially gone within 4 generations. Anderson Cooper, a Vanderbilt descendant, has publicly said there's no trust fund waiting for him. More recently, think about the wave of Nepo baby discourse that dominated cultural conversation in 2022 to 2023. The public fascination wasn't just about access and privilege. It was about a deeper question. Can the second generation actually build or only spend? The data from Stanley and Danko suggests that without intentional effort, the spending always wins. On the flip side, you see self-made entrepreneurs today building bootstrapped SaaS businesses, niche e-commerce brands, professional service firms, who embody the same patterns as Stanley's original millionaires. They live modestly, reinvest aggressively, and focus on building rather than displaying. The tools have changed. The psychology hasn't. There's a deeper layer to this chapter that's easy to miss: the relationship between work identity and wealth preservation. Stanley found that self-made millionaires didn't just work hard. They identified with their work. Their business was an extension of who they were. This meant they naturally thought about it constantly, optimized it relentlessly, and treated every dollar of profit with respect because they remembered what it took to earn it. Heirs, by contrast, often had a more detached relationship with money. They didn't earn it through their own effort, so they didn't have the memory of sacrifice attached to each dollar. This isn't a moral failing, it's a psychological reality. Money you didn't earn feels different from money you did, and that difference in feeling leads to a difference in behavior. Inheriting wealth can lead to great success if families pass down the right values along with the money. When parents are open about finances, teach financial discipline, and expect their children to build their own careers, the next generation is much more likely to thrive and grow that wealth. The wealth isn't the legacy, the habits are. This final chapter ties the entire book together beautifully, because it's not really about millionaires versus heirs, but it's about earned identity versus borrowed identity. The Millionaire Next Door built something, brick by brick, year by year, and that process changed who they are. They became the kind of person who builds wealth, not because of a strategy, but because of a mindset. The heir receives something, and without the journey that shaped the original builder, the wealth just becomes a costume rather than a character trait. The message is very clear here. The most valuable thing about building wealth isn't the money, it's the person you become in the process. The discipline, the patience, the ability to delay gratification. That's the real inheritance worth passing on. There are 3 takeaways from this chapter. First, build your wealth identity through action, not inheritance. Whether you've inherited money or not, focus on earning, saving, and investing through your own effort. The habits you build matter more than any lump sum. Start a side business, invest consistently, track your net worth, do the work that makes you feel like a wealth builder, because that feeling drives the right behavior. Second, if you plan to leave wealth to your children, leave the values first. Talk to your kids about money early and often. Let them see your budgeting process. Explain why you drive the car you drive. Make them earn their own spending money. The greatest gift isn't a trust fund. Rather, it's raising someone who doesn't need one. Third, choose your career for autonomy and opportunity, not prestige. When evaluating career moves, ask, does this give me more control over my financial future? Self-made millionaires consistently chose paths that offered ownership, upside, and independence, and even when those paths looked unglamorous from the outside. Prestige is a poor predictor of wealth. Autonomy is a strong one. And that's Chapter 8, Jobs, Millionaires versus Heirs, and the finale of our series on the Millionaire Next Door. Let me give you the big picture one more time. Wealth in America and around the world is built by ordinary people doing ordinary things extraordinarily well. They live below their means. They invest the difference. They resist social pressure to spend. They find niches. They build quietly, and the wealth they create is a byproduct of who they are, not the other way around. That's the real message of this book, and I hope this series has changed how you think about money, work, and what it really means to be wealthy. If you've been following along from Chapter 1, thank you a lot. Drop a comment telling me which chapter hit hardest for you. And if you're new here, go back to Chapter 1 and watch the full series. I promise, it's worth it. Next up, we're starting a brand new book. Stay tuned. I'll announce it in the next video. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss it. See you soon.